Good morning. I'm Commissioner Cindy Mills, and I'm very happy to be joined this morning by some true rays of light in our community, CASA. And I want to start with Stacy and let Stacy, if you'll introduce yourself and then introduce our guest as well.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. My name is Stacy Archer. I'm one of five advocacy specialists here on staff at CASA Forsyth. I've been here since August of 2019. My official reason why they hired me was because of my education advocacy. I'm a former teacher and been involved with the education system for over 20 years. I love what I do. I center on a lot of the education issues for the children that we serve. And the volunteers are the backbone of our organization. And two of my favorites, I guess I shouldn't say that I have all favorites, but Stephen and Sheila Castelein are amazing advocates and volunteers for us. They're prime example of all of the volunteers who work with us. They're humble and kind and extremely well trained, and just they've advocated for 10 children so far since they were sworn in by the judge in I think it was 2020, September of 2020. They were sworn in, and they've served 3 families, and that's a total of 10 children. And they can probably tell you some more information about themselves, but they're just amazing volunteers and just friends.
So Stephen and Sheila, first, thank you for the work you're doing on behalf of these children. It's such an incredible thing and so needed. What does it mean to be a CASA?
Well, I'll go first because there's a space. I love being CASAs. We're empty nesters, and we had a little hole in our hearts, and we felt so fortunate that our children didn't have any situations that we weren't able to handle, but we also felt like we had training on the job as parents. So we consider ourselves graduated. So that's our master's program, and now we want to help others.
And Stephen, what does it mean to be an advocate for kids?
You know, not everybody grows up as fortunate as we did and our children did, and seeing the struggles that parents have, actually multiple generations have, and see that how children grow up in an environment that's less than favorable. Being able to be a little part of their lives and getting some consistency and trying to help them and help their caretakers make the right decisions and help them steer in a way that there's a little seed of help there that might help them flourish in the long term. So, it's a lot of sad cases here, parents that get involved with drugs, that are huge financial strain, difficulty keeping jobs together and housing together. These children are living in that environment, and then, giving them some support, some help to find a way in this community. I feel blessed that I'm able to help that a little bit.
And Stacy, who are the kids, for those that know nothing about CASA? Who are the kids that are in CASA?
So CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocate. So it's dealing with families and children who have dependency cases or have DFACS involvement in our juvenile court system. We're fortunate enough in Forsyth County to have so many volunteers that we can serve our children who have DFACS foster care cases, also children who have, they're called family preservation cases, which are, there might be some DFACS involvement, but the kids are either placed with a family member or they're still in their home under protective orders, so that our volunteers can help those families access the resources that they need in order to have their substance abuse treatment, for example, or housing assistance, all of those types of things. So those kids that are in the families of children with DFACS involvement, family preservation, foster care, and some private dependency cases, meaning when maybe a grandparent files for a petition for guardianship for maybe their grandchild, who's maybe their own child is having some trouble. They're in a situation where they can't take care of their children at that moment. So our CASAs, we're one of 4 counties in the state that 100% of our children in foster care, family preservation, and private dependency cases. We're very, very blessed. Our volunteers are amazing.
So what does it mean to a CASA, though, when we only have 7 foster care homes in the county? How does that impact our CASAs?
Yeah, that has been the biggest hurdle, I would say, that they have, because only the 7 foster homes. Many of our children, most of our children, especially those in foster care, and I don't know the number, but I want to say, I shouldn't say the number because I don't know, but it's a good many, maybe 50, who are out of this county, and that includes, I mean, we have kids in LaGrange, Savannah, Macon, Augusta, Douglas County, close to Chattanooga. So our volunteers have to, their non-negotiable, so to speak, is they have to visit their children once a month. If they are that far away, they can do once a month in person and then once a month virtually. But that just shows the dedication. They drive to these kids' facilities, if it's an inpatient treatment facility or an inpatient, if they're hospitalized, if they're in a group home in LaGrange, they go down there, they the group home, they go to the child's school, they go to the child's doctors, they're in talks with DFACS, trying to make sure that all of the records that are necessary for that child to be successful, just as any other child that is not in care, that they get those same, they have that same oversight, I guess. And so our CASAs then do all that during the month, and then they come back when the child has a hearing. They write a court report that they present all of the factual information that they've gathered throughout the month or the months between the last court hearing and the current one, and they submit that. We submit that to the judge so that he has an idea of a full picture of what really that child, what his or her living conditions are, and what's in their best interest.
So Stephen and Sheila, what would you say with the 10 kids and in the experience that you have had, the benefits of being a CASA from the from your own perspective and then from the child's perspective?
Well, I would say from the child's perspective, it's, well, first of all, we consider ourselves encouragers. That's our job. You know, we can't really change anything for them. We can only write our reports and report what we have seen. But we want to be encouragers to each of the children and to their families and to their parents. Their parents are going through a rough time and they need to be encouraged and to help to be able to know that their children are safe and that there's a light at the end of the tunnel and there's people around to help. And then we are in the court with these children, and there's lots of lawyers. There might be 6 lawyers in there representing everyone involved, but they've never met the children. We are the only people that have met the children. And then we share this to the judge. We really appreciate that our judge gives us the time to explain what we've observed and seeks our input. Stephen, what do you think?
No, agreed. I think you said it well. You know, it's we try to be a consistent face in front of the children, and try to determine where the needs are, and indeed encourage parents, children, caretakers, all to find a way to turn this into a positive situation. In all our cases, our goal is to reunite the family. We want the parents to take control back over their children, but they first need to take control back over their own lives. And that is so important. But our goal is to make sure that the children are safe, and that's what we communicate back to the judge. Defects, by the way, is the other consistent connection to the children. So they are trying to see the children, but they are so understaffed that it's difficult for them to do that. And there's a lot of turnover as well. So they're in that sense, they're less of a consistent face in front of the children.
I think consistent is exactly because I deal a lot with addiction and mental health, and I think forming a relationship with these kids is paramount, and having that consistency, that they learn that there's somebody they can trust, that's dependable, that they feel like somebody's out there that's got their back. That goes so far. It's hard to measure what that does in a child's life to have that. So tell me, Stacy, a little bit about the CASA program at Forsyth. I think y'all are celebrating 19 years.
Yeah, this is our 19th year. Like I said earlier, I really didn't know much about the child welfare system coming in. I knew the students who I taught largely were or should have been students or kids who maybe had some more oversight. I would have given $1 million for some of my kids to have known that, that they had a good CASA, like waiting for them. But so for 19 years in Forsyth County, we've been around even longer than that. But when I don't know all the real details, but I know that one of the judicial circuits split, and so in 2004, that's when we were founded. And we, like Stephen and Sheila said, I mean, the only thing that I can say is just that it's just such an amazing organization. Like I said, I didn't know much about child welfare, but Stephen mentioned it too. The ultimate goal is to have reunification with the families. And when I was first hired here, I wasn't really aware that that was the case. And so it's taken a long time to realize that the ultimate goal for all of what we train our volunteers to do is to prepare them with the resources that they know the goal is reunification, and also they are the most consistent presence in the child's life, and that you'll have case managers change placements, the attorneys, sometimes they don't have a chance to meet the kids. But in Forsyth County, ever since I started, the main goal has been to equip the volunteers with the knowledge, the trainings, and they already have the empathy and the humility to work with our families. But it's like nothing I've ever seen. I every time I feel like I need to be pinched that I work in an organization that brings such good help to the community. Our volunteers do that. It's like nothing I've ever seen. I don't know how else to say it.
So how does somebody become a CASA? I mean, I'm sure y'all are always looking for more people.
Absolutely. In fact, we have a new class right now in training. There are nine adults, and they actually will be sworn in next week, actually. And so in order to become one, you'll come to the office or call or email, and you fill out an application. It's a pretty strenuous interview process, because we have to really, and there's no judgment, but we'd like to get to know your background and just to kind of see if a lot of times we have it come in for the interview. It's a long interview process, but it's very good. We get to know you, you get to know us, see if it's a place that you'd like to be a part of. There's a 8-week or 7-week training classes that are usually on Thursdays. They're 3 hours a day. And then at the end of that, you'll have the swearing in process where you can you can take on your first case that day if you're ready, or if there's one available. And we do, unfortunately, we do have more and more need lately. There for a while, things were slowing down, probably because of COVID, and a lot of the families were not being recognized for having certain needs, but we're really picking up the pace. So we need so many, we need the qualified volunteers. And like I said, it's like a professional. It's like I did a lot of volunteer work, but it's like nothing I've ever seen. It's like a professional volunteer, but I don't know, Stephen and Sheila could speak to the time spent that they invest of their personal time into CASA. I'd hate to say something incorrectly, but
how much time do y'all spend on being a CASA?
It depends entirely where you are in the case. In the beginning of a case, you really try to understand the setting. You try to meet the children, obviously. You try to meet teachers. You try to meet family members, the parents, maybe healthcare providers. Whatever you try to understand where the gaps are, basically, and are the kids safe? Are they being taken care of? Are they continuing with their education and all their medical needs? Are they taken care of? So in the beginning, it takes more time, but once you're a little bit in a routine, then basically you try to visit the children once a month, and if they're in a single placement, then you just meet them all at once at the same time. But if they're in separate placements, then you have to go to, of course, the different locations, and then you also try to meet the parents. Go for it, Sheila. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Or if they're in 3 different counties.
Yeah, we have one case that has a little bit more of a logistical challenge, but it's not a terrible time commitment. Of course, then every 3 months, typically there's a court report due. So writing the court report takes a little bit of time, and then going to the court case itself, of course, takes some time as well. So.
How long typically are you with a child? Does it just vary from case to case?
You don't want to be a burden on them either. So, half an hour.
But I mean, the entire duration. I mean, once kids get back with their family, I mean, is that usually a year process, 2 years, or can it go longer?
It should be less than 2 years, but I think our case is over a year and a half, probably in that range.
When you see the statistics for foster care kids, the ones that are available, it is staggering. I really hope and pray that our state can do something to help DFACS, because those numbers are, I mean, just that graduate high school, that end up in crime. I've been trying just to get them to do the statistics, to know, just to follow a kid from the time they're in foster care, where do they end up in life? Like to follow, don't get into HIPAA, don't get into things you're not supposed to, but to know, because I think that until you get the data, I'm on NACO's board of directors, but I had attended a meeting a few years ago, and it was a child advocacy group nationwide. And they said only 3 states at that time collected the data to know what happens to kids in foster care. 3. And of course, Georgia was not one of them. And I said, we can't even, if we don't know the data, we don't know what states to look to that's doing it better. And I met with Senator Ossoff recently and said that I've been trying on the state level for years just to get them to collect the data from our state. But I did not think it would happen until it was mandated federally, that it needed to be something that we need to do nationwide as far as looking and caring, because until we do that, I don't think that we're going to create a better system. And I think that the system, if you want to look at suicide rates, I mean, drug rates, I mean, it is just astounding what they are. So I can't imagine what they would be without CASA. I mean, I think that y'all are making an incredible effort to improve the lives, and I thank you for that so much. Is there anything that we didn't cover that we want to say to encourage other people to sign up to do this, or any personal story that you'd like to share?
Well, I just want to say that there is a drive for a need for more foster parents and better trained foster parents. But I want to speak to some of the foster parents that we've met are absolutely wonderful, wonderful people. And it's a real calling. And we've got the easy job, just driving around, visiting and checking and writing reports. But kids need families. And not only that, this is even into a new subject. Once they're 18, we all know as parents, that doesn't mean they're ready to go out into the world.
Right.
By any means. So that extends the need in our county.
It's a great need. I mean, it's really shameful that we're down to 7. And I say that, and I'm not a foster care provider. So I think that we've got to figure out, I think it goes back to DFACS and it being so understaffed. And I mean, I think that we're around 60, Stacy, that are in foster care.
That's what I was thinking.
But that number, it should be much higher, especially since COVID. There is a lot of cases that are going undetected right now. COVID really did a horrible disservice when the kids were out of school. The reporting dropped. I mean, it is, there's no way our population has grown and those numbers have went down. There's just no way.
And the Families First law that was passed was designed to provide more resources to families so that children wouldn't have to go into foster care. But the problem is those resources aren't readily available. And so kids staying in the home longer without the resources that they were supposed to get. So when we finally do get them in, I shouldn't say finally, but when they finally get to the attention of us, their cases are becoming more and more serious. You know, it's like they've been in the home longer. Ideally, they should have received, services, and we would have, in our county anyway, our CASAs could have helped, but yet they didn't, because they weren't identified. And then they're coming to us once they get into foster care. It's like, well, it's more serious than when I first was hired, for example.
Well, it's the lack of the lack of connectivity, the lack of care.
Yeah.
And it is, I mean, when we've been meeting with DFACS and talking, and I think that Kara is doing a fabulous job and trying really hard.
Yes.
But they're not even open 5 days a week. They can't even get a receptionist. The pay is $28,000 a year. And I mean, they can't find anybody that would take that job.
And what we were asking them to do for that is, I mean, because they're constantly over, I don't even think overwork. I said DFACS workers are the only people, other than, in my opinion, the teachers, that are asked to do so much and not given enough credit for it whatsoever, not monetary
resources.
Yeah. You had asked, and I knew Stephen and Sheila were going to do this, because all of our volunteers, you had asked for a success story, and I knew they wouldn't tell one of their own. But I would like to share a little bit about Stephen and Sheila. I just know, in just the case that I'm working on with them, they have been able to support a family who, it's a family preservation case, who has generational substance abuse issues. Some of the family has successfully come through those substance abuse issues, and is taking on a lot of responsibilities that help his other family members, and as a result of that, has some financial limitations. but they have been able to find, I think you mentioned the tutoring for the children who need it. They've been able to provide physical resources that that the family have been able to use and just get a little bit of a break. They've been able to provide emotional help for them, because ultimately that's what everybody needs, is just that emotional support. They've provided extracurricular opportunities. They helped this gentleman enroll his children in school when school had been an issue, and he was, did it himself. And so that's just, she said she has the easy job of driving all over and all that. There's nothing easy about what they do, and they do it with such grace and humility and kindness and just acceptance. And that to me is what I love most about CASA Forsyth County, is the volunteers who change our community for the better. And you never know it. It's behind the scenes. It's very isolating work, but when they get together and get to talk about things, it's just like I'm in the presence of people greater than I am. I know that much. So I can't say.
Well, thank you. Thank you both for what you do. And CASA is a 501c3 or C4. I don't know which one, but they're a nonprofit that they look to raise money, and the community definitely needs to give great support to CASA, and great gratitude to the people that are CASAs and that are changing lives of kids. So I want to thank you all for being with me today. Thank you for the work you're doing. And I hope you're encouraged to keep doing it. And I hope that we can find other people that will help this organization as well. So have a blessed day.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Cindy.
you. Thank you.